Hello, today I am going to walk you through my process of creating my second prompt, which was wild, and this one was a little bit more difficult than I thought it was going to be. I haven't prepared any ideas before doing this challenge, which I feel like now I should start doing that because this one was challenging. But I wanted to walk you through my mind mapping process as well as the whole, creation of the art itself. So I wanted to do something to do with animals, and originally I'd seen this print of, I think it was an octopus where someone had just painted the eye of an octopus inside of a square, and I thought that was really cool. I'll try and put that on the screen now. But I was looking at animals that are kind of seen as big and strong and have the potential to be aggressive, I guess, because of the way that they look, but actually are quite calm and serene. So that's when I got the idea for doing a whale. I also wanted to incorporate some color into this one, which was really scary because I don't really like color on my drawing or art in general. Yeah, I was kind of playing around with these, but then my partner was like, this is the time to challenge yourself. So if there's any time to be, creative and do things that you're not sure of, now is the time. So I did, and I was experimenting with different pens. I think the one I'm using right now is a marker, and I was kind of just adding layers bit by bit, and the opacity was decreased so that you could kind of see the strokes of the layers. And initially I did like that, but then it got to a point where I thought it was I felt like it was trying to be like a painting or a photograph, but not being as good as that, and I felt like you could really tell with that, so I just wasn't sure about it. After a while of doing that, I got a bit bored of like painting and trying to do it in that way, so I gave up at that point and started just doing lines instead. Found it difficult to figure out which way the lines should be going initially, and because I wanted to include scars, I didn't know whether or not to leave that entire space blank with no lines in it, or if I wanted to add some dots or little dash lines to make it like colored in but not completely opaque, if that makes sense. So I was really struggling with what I wanted to do, and at this point I felt like the barnacles looked out of place. Because they were smaller, it looked like the line of the pen was a lot thicker. The pen was the same size, so in theory it should have been more cohesive. I think it all tied in after I did more colors. I think this is the point where I realized that I had merged the layers, where I'd done the outlines of the scars, which was my second error. So I had to go in and delete all the lines that were touching the slightly grayed outlines of the scars. So I had to delete all of those and then sort out my layers so that they weren't merged. And sometimes I get into the habit of naming my layers and being really organized, and then other times I just don't have the patience to do that, so things get messy and I get confused and don't do that. I was trying to differentiate between shadows and light, and this is something that I'm still really struggling with. Because I use such defined lines, it's hard to fade them out in a cohesive way. So sometimes my shadows will just be like instantly and bluntly stopped. So what I was trying to do was add a couple lines here and there. I feel like I could have done better, and looking at it now there are definitely some spaces where I could have done that, but that's something for next time and something that I won't figure out unless I make mistakes. Here's the point where I figured I would try and continue doing the painting. The rest of this video is just me trying to figure out how to paint, and I was debating whether or not to even include it because it wasn't something I was happy with at the end, but this challenge is for making mistakes and learning and growing, so I did include it. Initially I continued to use the marker pen on a lower opacity so it would be more transparent and then you could see the strokes more, and I kind of liked that, but then I felt like what I was going for in the beginning was something like acrylic paint, and this wasn't the effect that I got from it. I started adding these little blobs and stuff to kind of create textures, but that wasn't something I really liked. Here I'm just adding in some cross hatching to make the shadows more defined, and I wasn't sure where I was going to go with it at this point. I didn't know whether or not to keep it like this or add some brown paper in the background to give it some difference to what I've done before, or whether or not to paint. And then I decide to try out a few different styles with my paint before I go into going with a completely opaque painting style. This one I preferred a lot more than the last one, just because it was more like acrylic. I think it wasn't perfect still, but it was better than my first couple of attempts, so I did prefer it, but I still feel like I haven't succeeded with this. It was either too dark or not my style enough, or it didn't go with the grid background, or you couldn't see the black pens enough. I don't know, there was something about it that I couldn't pinpoint, but I didn't quite like. I decided after all of this that I was just gonna go back to my grid, like black and white kind of plain drawing style, but I did upload the blue version too, just in case anyone wanted to see that. And I thought I'd include it in here just so you can see that sometimes what you want your art to be like doesn't always happen, and we can't really grow from anything if we don't practice and learn. So yeah, that's it. I'm gonna start trying to upload my pieces as the week of the prompt starts, so that it's there if anyone wants some inspiration or ideas. So hopefully the next video will be out really soon. But anyways, thank you for watching. Subscribe and like and comment if you want to do any of those things. That would really help me out, as this is a very new channel. I appreciate you and I hope that you're doing well. Thanks. Bye.